Bellamy. Like
Welcome back
Nelson.
to
Yeah.
another episode of Meredyth with a Y. I am your host, Meredyth Willits, and today I have Orange is the New Black's Mandela Bellamy. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
And we're going to be talking about all things acting and homelessness and all the things in between. So please stay with us. Hello, everyone. This is Meredyth with a Y, and I am your host, Meredyth Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you so very much for being here with me. I have to say, you're without a doubt one of my biggest guests that I've ever had on the podcast.
Really?
So I am so very, very blessed to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I found you on TikTok sharing your story with the world of your battle with homelessness.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, it was definitely a battle the first time around about 7 years ago. I am currently in a shelter in New York City, and I think one of the biggest signs of growth for me is that I'm faced with the same situation and just coming at it with a completely different mindset. And yeah, I'm really proud of myself that I'm able to see the change in me in real time, day to day, moment to moment. Even telling my story is not something I would have done even like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh,
So
really? What was it?
yeah,
What was the shift there?
you know, I was living with family in Texas and for about 2 years, and things had been a bit tumultuous. And there are a lot of millennials who are sort of confronting their baby boomer parents about, some of the behavior in our childhood that has continued into our adulthood and how a lot of it hasn't changed. And after a few months of going back and forth and trying to work things out, there was just silence with my family and I. So once they decided to, move on from the place they were living and I was not invited to come along, that's
Mhm.
when I was like, okay, I have a new identity now. I have to build a new community now. And so even in the first video that I posted that I guess went viral, there's no cuts in that. I literally was just lying on the floor. There was no furniture in the apartment. They had moved everything out, and I just got on there for 8 or so minutes and just started talking. And I was
So,
like
yeah.
shocked how it resonated with so many people.
I remember when I went viral years
Mhm.
ago, uh, I kind of had that same, I don't know, it's just like just something breaks and
Mhm.
then you just go, it's now or never, it's me or them kind of energy. I don't know how to describe it.
Absolutely.
Kind of fall
Yes,
on your knees
exactly.
and say, screw it. Like I'm done. I'm done faking it. I'm done with everything. I don't know what it
Yes.
is, but there's something very freeing about that. And as you
Yes.
said, like, this isn't your first go with homelessness. When you were filming, was it Orange and
Yes.
the New Black?
Yes. Yes.
You were going
I
from
did
the
three different TV shows when I was homeless back in 2018.
yep, from the red carpet to a shelter,
Yes. 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 Exactly.
and no one knew?
My family and some friends who are no longer in my life. Yeah, everyone in my personal life knew, and my former agent and managers knew as well.
And
And it was
just
just kind of like, okay, well, you have an audition tomorrow, know your lines, and life just kept on going for everyone else.
it's
And
I don't think that people can wrap their brains around seeing someone on television, the glitz, the glam, the red carpet, the
mhm,
talent, and then say, "Oh, but XYZ." But I think that I've posted a couple of videos recently about homelessness,
mhm.
and so many people don't understand that so many of us, so many of them, are one paycheck, are one pay cycle away from looking at homeless, straight in the eye.
Yes, and I mean, I came from Los Angeles before I was in New York. I was an actor in LA for most of my 20s, and before I moved to New York, I was sleeping in the back seat of my car. But I had a car and I was grateful for that, and I could sort of couch hop a little bit. But I had faced it before, and it's yeah, everyone is a lot closer to homelessness than I think we want to think about.
that we want to admit.
Yeah,
So when you're talking about, and I just saw one of your videos and it was hashtag boomer parents, and I was laughing.
yeah.
I'm a Gen Xer, but I get it. And I actually just had a conversation with a boomer recently, and we were talking about it's not what they did when we were children, it's
Hmm.
what they keep doing that's the problem. It's that they're not stopping the activity, the behavior. We're willing to let go. We get
Yes.
we can't all be great parents and you did the best you could. We get all
Yeah.
that. But
Hmm.
you're still doing it. And the fact that
Yes.
they like left you there speaks volumes. I mean, that's the problem, right? It's the now.
Yeah, and I realized there was a role I was expected to fill in my family that was always designated to me. I'm the youngest,
Mm.
and I feel like part of the reason I exist is to hold together a family unit that definitely should have broken apart before I was even born. And I think I've just always been expected to take all of the dysfunction and just be the punching bag for that, for lack of a better term. And
Mhm.
realizing that these negative thoughts and feelings that I had about myself really didn't belong to me. They were projected onto me. And there's
Yeah.
always been this battle between who I know myself to be and who I'm told I am by the people I love. But, when you're told that you're loved and you go to private school and you get nice Christmas presents and, your parents show off all of your awards to everyone and they're such a good parent. And then when you pursue acting, I understand stage parents now, and they might be dysfunctional, but they still have this kid and lights and, that they can brag about. But now I'm homeless and, there's nothing to brag about. And now I'm having emotional boundaries. So
Yeah.
on a personal level, they can't sort of siphon off my energy. So it literally came down to me and my parent and them saying to me, when I'm trying to explain to them, it's like, no, you're still speaking to me like I'm a child that you don't trust or respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after the fifth or so conversation in the space of a month, one of my parents said to me, well, if all you're going to do is criticize me, then I guess we just shouldn't talk. And then we didn't talk for 6 months. And then the end of lease notice came and no one told me. It was just on the dining room table, and I got an email from my parents saying you have to be out by this date. So up until the day before, I had no idea where I was going to go or what I was going to do. I was in Texas and I knew I didn't want to stay there. And because I had been homeless in New York previously, I knew how to navigate that. I knew how to show up
Mhm.
to New York with nothing and make something happen. So that was the only option I had. So I went with it.
So when it was good-ish with your family. You know, you were filling that role, if you will. You had value. And now as we're getting older, I think, and we are getting wiser, and there's social media to teach us things like healthy boundaries, and there's social
Yes.
media to teach us things like gaslighting and all these
Yes.
things where we can say, look, this isn't working for me. I think that we learned so much. My generation does, anyways. I've learned so much from social media. Like,
Yes.
you can
Yes.
say what
And
you want, but there's consequences. Mom,
yeah,
dad,
and
whatever.
I couldn't believe how many people had the same dynamic with their family, with their
Yeah.
siblings, and realizing that your siblings are enablers and triangulation. And
Yeah.
and just for so long, I thought I was just genuinely a bad person because when the people closest to me, no matter what I do, it's even when I would, I used to rack up first place trophies like it was nothing growing up. In dance and speech and karate, I was just gifted at things. And with a first place trophy in my hand, well, did you get a perfect score? with a first place trophy in my hand. Okay, so what's next? Next week you have to compete again. And I'm like, I'm standing here and I have won. And I can't sit in that, even when I would book a job. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you were in the movie Joker. Okay, what's next? And it's like it's the number one movie in the world right now. I'm not thinking what's next. I'm sitting in it
Yeah.
because I'm grateful for it and I
Yeah.
worked for it and I earned it. And I've always, I don't know if I talked about this in any of my videos, but I've been on like 1,200 auditions in
That's a lot of no's.
and the thing is, it is, and I internalize that as rejection, not realizing that in order to get 1,200 auditions, you have to get 1,200 auditions.
Yeah.
There has to be 1,200 different instances where an industry professional is like, yeah, that person can do it.
Bring her
And
in.
most people, they never they never get to the big city. They never get to go to acting school. They never can get an agent. They can never get an audition. They can never get a job. And because those things were so normal to me and, excellence is sort of my default, but it was never, you know, I never got to sit in it and bask in it
Kept moving that
because
goalpost.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And having a loved one who says, well, I live vicariously through you. And I was like, well, don't do that because I barely want to be dealing with what I'm dealing with. And I don't see the point in having two people on the same emotional level because we're not getting anywhere with that.
Yeah.
I guess I just had different expectations of, okay, well, I'm going through this, make me feel better about it. I shouldn't feel
Yeah.
even more drained after speaking to a loved one about what I'm going through.
And this sounds crazy, but we just had a meeting with the athletic director of my son's high school, my son and daughter's high school. And the coach was like, let us coach.
Hmm.
You be mom and dad. So when they strike out, we'll do the correcting. You come home, the kid comes home to the safe space. And so often on the sidelines, and I'm sure I'm 1,000% guilty, plenty, but it's nice to hear the athletic director remind us as parents, be mom, be dad. We have coaches over here to make those corrections because that is hard when you strike out. The kid's already beating himself up, and then mom and dad
Yeah.
get in the car and go, "You weren't looking," and blah, blah, blah. Like that makes it even more difficult because being an actor is like being an athlete. There's only one of you out there at the bat. There's
Hmm.
only one of you
Yeah.
standing there who's striking out, and you go back, and it's just like you either did get the job or you didn't get the job. Let me just say really quick just a few of the things that you've been on: The Blacklist, Jessica Jones, Madam
Hmm.
Secretary, Private Life, Wonderstruck, Orange is the New Black. You've done music videos with Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Mariah Carey, Ariana Grande, Nicki Minaj. I mean,
Yes. Yes. And even like my same old brain is going off because immediately I was like, oh, well, that was years ago. You haven't done anything recently. It's like it's the same, but I
the
catch
same.
myself now.
Yep. Yep. You
And I'm
can,
like,
but now you
no,
know to stop. Now you
it's
know to
like,
go. Mm-mm. Yeah.
because it doesn't belong to me. Because I'm not naturally a critical person and I'm really learning about who I actually am. Like
Yeah.
I'm not overly critical, I'm not unkind. Like I'm self-centered, but I'm an adult who's single with no children of I should be, So like all of this negative and of course, we seek out people who are like the family we came from because that feels like home.
Feels
And
comfortable.
and friendships and relationships that I've been in because I'm just repeating this same thing. Like everyone in my life was so overly critical towards me,
Yeah. It's their
and
voice.
even going back to what you were saying about, your kids and athletics, I grew up mostly as a dancer. So I saw a lot of dance moms and the insidiousness of the abuse was it's my parents saying, oh, well, I'm not involved. I just drop you off and I let your teacher be your teacher. And then you come home, but let me get second place and I'll hear about it. Let me get a
Yeah.
B on a report card. Like, it's only been very recently where I stopped hearing, well, if you would have applied yourself more in high school, you would have gotten straight A's. And it's like, I applied myself as best as I possibly could. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I was taking college level courses when I was in high school and I got B's, my bad,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think you
So,
can get those voices out of your head? I think I call it programming. Like we're
oh yeah.
programmed from like birth to whatever, 18, 20, 25, whatever. And then we spend from 25 to 50 kind of undoing all those strings and threads and voices in our head that say a little thinner, a little better, a little less food, a little more workout, a little, whatever, more money. And we have to be so adamant and so kind with ourselves, remothering, they're calling it now, reparenting.
Yes, I have had to reparent myself because, okay, during quarantine, it was the first time in my adult life I hadn't experienced any sort of food insecurities because of
Mhm.
enhanced benefits. And I gained like over 100 pounds. And so I qualified for gastric bypass surgery, lost all of that weight, lost 120 pounds in 12
Wow.
months.
Wow.
And in the in the presence of my family, if I would be lying on the couch watching TV, it's like, oh, well, you need to go get some exercise.
Lazy. Yep.
And I'm
So
like,
lazy.
I lost 120 pounds in a year. Or I would be, or like, I tore both of my ACLs just from
Oh,
having
geez.
that weight on me. Both of my ACLs were partially torn and I had to go to physical therapy. And so when I would walk up and down the stairs, I would have to hold onto the railing and sometimes walk one at a time. And they'd be like, see, you can't even walk. And I'm like, I was morbidly obese. I had comorbidities, which could have killed me. Um, I lost 100 pounds. I'm in physical therapy. I'm clearly doing the best I can, and it's
Yeah.
just never good enough. So, yes, I have had to absolutely reparent myself. And just, people always talk about be the adult that your childhood self would feel safe around. And there
Yeah.
are times where I have to have a memory, a traumatic memory of my childhood, and literally put myself in the room with myself
Yeah.
and like communicate with that,
Yep.
hurt child that's still in there. And I
Yep.
have to talk to them and I have to let them know like what's happening is not okay. And there are people out there who will be there for you and you can be there for yourself because you're strong enough to do that. And I used to resent when people would tell me how strong I was because I was like, I don't want to have to be this strong. But like I said, it's just kind of my default. And so it's an honor to be able to show up for myself and not having to be concerned with what is this person going to think? What's this person going to say? Even, the location I am with the shelter, and I did share that with a parent because I want them to physically know where I am still.
Yeah.
And, at first they were like, oh, like we were texting and they're like, they seemed really impressed with like the location I was in and the situation I'm in. And I was like, just give it 10 minutes. They're going to say something negative. And they were like, oh, I Googled the area and it has a high crime rate. I'm like, it's New York City. They're
Just,
like, I really hope there's security there. And I'm like, yeah, there's security. And I just left it at that. And I haven't
yeah.
communicated with them since because I cannot, everything that's bad is worse and everything that's good can also be worse. So I just, and even like with this interview, like there's still that part of me that feels like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, here's the link. And I'm like, nope, I can't keep reaching back to what I know doesn't work because I'm just setting myself up. And it's my responsibility to be like, no, stick to your boundaries. I want different for myself. And so I
I
have to
I
do things that are different.
I learned years ago that when you share, it's an invitation. So
Yes,
if
yes.
that helps you at all,
Hmm.
sometimes sticking to the weather,
Yes, yes. Just
local
keep it
local
simple.
events, keep it
Hmm.
simple because any bit of sharing is an invitation to opinion.
Yeah.
And that and then it just takes you right back. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so it's
Hmm.
better to just kind of surface, connect, and that it
Hmm.
tends to be safer. And I will say um that for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because they were the children of the silent generation and depression, but boomers, I have noticed, not to paint a wide brush, but I will, tend to be profoundly obsessed with weight. I don't know what that is,
Yeah.
but it's
And like
crazy.
my weight is genetic. So like from both sides. So I don't know why it's like, and this is what I was writing about in the autobiography that I'm writing about. It's
Yeah.
like I was expected to overcome abuse and genetics,
Yeah.
and it was a moral failing for me to just be born as I was, as a product of these two people who also have this characteristic. But I'm expected to
Be better then.
just bypass my own genetics and give
Yeah.
them a thin, happy, cooperative child. And
Doesn't work
I don't
that
know.
way.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, looking back at your amazing career as an actor, do you look and say, God, I pulled so much of my life into these characters? Um, Pain, struggle. I was watching a couple of the things that you were in, Jessica Jones, Orange is the New Black. I watched that entire series, of course.
Mhm.
And do you think that a lot of your pain went into certain characters?
You know, play, playing an inmate while also being homeless was very interesting because I did a Q&A at my old school, and one of the students was asking me, like, I didn't tell them about the homelessness part, but they were asking me, how do I pull from my own life while playing an inmate? And I said, I don't know what it's like to be in prison, but I do know what it's like to be surrounded by people who don't love you or protect you. I know what it's like to work a job tirelessly for low wages. I know what it's like to be separated from anyone or anything that makes you feel safe. So that's really where it came from. And just, the particular character I was playing was serving a life sentence.
Yeah.
And but what I brought into it was like, okay, this exhaustion, this authenticity of when is this going to be over? When am I
Yeah.
going to get past this? And I was able to have more hope than the woman I was playing, you know? So
Is it weird to come out now and talk about the fact that you were homeless for the other actors that will see now? I mean, I'm assuming they didn't know at the time. Does it feel freeing? Because I know I have some friends that are dealing with some very difficult things in their life, and I'm watching them free themselves from the lie, and the weight that is coming off of their shoulders from pretending all this time is immense.
yeah, I think it was maybe the day after that the final season premiered that a lot of the actresses were like, I was not well paid. I don't have any money. With streaming, like I think for the first 2 years after it aired, we got like a large chunk of residuals. But then when I called SAG about it, they're like, yeah, it's only for the first 2 years. I don't think I've gotten $50 this year in residuals from Orange is the New Black.
Get out.
I will get like $200 checks from one line I said on a Comedy Central sketch show 15 years ago. But for one of Netflix highest watch series, we get nothing. And I mean, yes, it is a combination of just streaming residuals, which a lot of actors are just getting screwed over with. And it was a show full of women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just,
Don't
it
pay.
was created by women, it was written by women, it was directed by women. One of the camera operators had this like 500-pound camera on her and she's visibly pregnant, which was awesome. So it's like women are doing this, women are creating this,
Yeah.
women are portraying these characters for the most part. And it's just kind of like, well, it's a huge show, so I know you want to be on it, so you'll just take whatever we give.
Yeah.
And one time I was given a contract to sign and it was accidentally attached to one of the, larger recurring characters on the show. And they were making the same a day as I was. And they
Wow.
were on the show for seasons. And I was like, oh, I wasn't supposed to see that. They're like, oh, yeah, sorry, you weren't supposed to see that. So yeah, it's not just an illusion of shattering the illusion or the expectation that other people have for us. It's also, it's a childhood dream for all of us. And then we
Yeah.
show up, and of course being on Orange is the New Black was my dream job. I was like, I want to play an inmate at Litchfield prison, which I did. And then you get there, and then the people in your life aren't happy for you, or there's another group of people who have such high expectations. And then, I became homeless, and then I, finally found a place, and then went back to waitressing. And
Hmm.
then, like, I'm in the trailer for Joker, like in the trailer in the first few seconds, and people at work are coming up to me and being like, "Why are you working here?"
Is
And
that
I'm like,
you? And is this you?
"Yeah." And it's just like, I was like, "Oh, well, I'm just saving up because I want to get an even nicer apartment. It's just for the summer." And I just have to like lie about it because people are looking at me like, "Why don't you have more? Like, what's," yeah. And honestly, the reason why a lot of women survive in this industry is because they get married
Mhm.
and they have something to fall back on.
Support
I'm not
system.
saying that's why, but the only reason a lot of women are able to stay in this industry is because they are married and have a husband with a sustainable income. Even from the time I was like 19, 20 years old, a lot of the young women I knew were getting married. They were like, "Yeah, he has a stable job and I can't stay in LA
Yeah.
waitressing. It's just,
Yeah.
I would have to quit." So,
You mentioned in one of your videos that when you were in college, you had two suicide attempts. Um,
in college, there was one. The last time I was homeless, there was two.
okay. And that it ended up getting you kicked out of school. Is that correct?
Well, what they said was, even though this is not what the hospital said that I was a danger to myself, obviously, but my school decided that I was a danger to myself and others, and then
Mm.
permanently, no, they banned me from returning to campus indefinitely, is what they said, which
Like
is
kicked out of
being kicked
college.
out. Yes. And
Were you struggling with depression from the parental stuff, the stress of life itself? Like what was happening back then?
oh, I'd been in therapy since I was 13, and I was depressed long before that. From the time I was like maybe 6 years old, is when those thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, started. When I was 6, 7 years old, just looking at myself in the mirror and just having these horrible thoughts about myself. And um, I'm writing in my autobiography about how I struggled with selective mutism as a child, which
What's that?
is, it's when it's a rare type of anxiety disorder where children have, where they cannot speak in certain environments. I had the same dance teacher for about 14 years, and I could not speak to her. Like,
Mm.
going to church, I could not interact with the kids in Sunday school. I could talk in school, I could talk at home, but in certain environments, I literally just could not speak. But my dance teacher, who was very lovely, she never forced me to sort of get out of my shell because I was a very talented dancer. And she
She's like,
knew that
you
I
do
was
you.
smart. She was like, she was like, I was smart and receptive. And I was in the like advanced class. Like, I was a senior level competitor when I was like in fourth grade. So I excelled. So she never tried to pull me out of that. So I'll always appreciate her for that. So yeah, it goes back a long time, and now that I'm writing about it, I understand that it's because from the time I was 3 or 4 years old, I knew it just was not safe to express myself in certain environments, especially
Yeah.
if someone thinks highly of me. I had this fear that if one day I did start talking, then she wouldn't like me as much, or she wouldn't think I was as smart or as gifted. So I felt safe in it.
I made a video one time talking about how nothing good can come from speaking up
Hmm.
and learning, like talking and talking back, and speaking up for yourself is could be dangerous, I mean, honestly.
Absolutely. And even when I was speaking out in the very last day, I was at the last shelter speaking out at the like the meeting with the residences and the social workers. And I was like, I need to say something now. Like, even though I filed a report, I was like, I need all these women to know in this moment that yes, this is happening, and yes, someone is willing to speak up. And at first I had that sort of like clamming up, and it's like,
Mhm.
like I don't want, and because I've spoken up to HR, in different jobs about, sexual harassment and sexual assault on the job because it happens all the time. And of course I've been penalized for it and ostracized, but I was like, when you speak, people listen. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of these women are being judged simply by how they show up.
Well, you just had a
And
situation at your last shelter that you were in just a week or so ago where men were coming in, workers were coming into the shelter and doing the, is anyone in here? And what, in the
yeah,
showers?
because there were windows on the front of the doors, and they would like, I would see them like peeking in the windows.
Hmm.
And the way the rooms are set up, not everyone has a lot of privacy. And these women are forced to undress in front of these windows.
Yep.
And after I spoke up about it at the meeting, a lot of the other women are like, yes, it is happening and nothing is being done about it. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can't be afraid to use my voice when I know people are going to hear it and respond to it,
And
because
respond.
I've always been like a gifted orator too, which is one thing that really helped my mutism. And I was like, yeah, you have to use that gift on behalf of someone else.
Yeah, when I was listening to you talk about that on your video, there was just this thing, and I was like, she was meant to be there, like because
Hmm.
you were, and you did exactly that. You also speak about going through AA. So
Hmm.
many people that go through abuse, I liken alcoholism and addiction and suicidal tendencies to the end all be all of fight or flight. It
Oh
is the
yeah.
epitome of flight.
Hmm.
And you went to AA. Was that for alcoholism then at that time?
Yes, because I was living with a family member in New York, and they noticed that I was always intoxicated. And they're a social worker, so they had referred a
Mm.
lot of people to AA. So I did go, and I did stop drinking for about 6 months. I was there a little over 2 years, and very naive. Um, there's this thing called 13th stepping, because there are 12 steps in the program. And the 13th step is basically when typically the dynamic is an older man with a number of years in the program who's just sort of there socially, not really working the program. Excuse
Okay.
me. And excuse me, a younger woman who is new, and he will sort of go to her as like a sharing partner, or maybe even a sponsor, or like, oh, I'll give you a ride home, here's a couple bucks, do you need me to buy you groceries, or stuff like that. And then it will, because you are sharing intimate details of yourself
Yeah.
one on one with this person, and things can get physical, like a physical relationship can develop. But because this younger woman is in a dynamic which probably mimics an abusive father,
Yeah.
she just sort of falls into it, which is what happened with me. And then this happened within my first 6 weeks of being there. And then
Wow.
things happen for like a month, and then I randomly get a text from this man saying like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And I was just like, why? And he's like, you know why. He's like, I didn't like our last conversation. And I was like, I don't remember our last conversation. What did I say? And he's like, oh, the fact that you don't know what you said, that really speaks to your character. Just like the gaslighting and the
Yeah.
horribly cruel psychological abuse. Because he got a conquest, and I'm trying to stay sober, and he's still showing up at these meetings, and then like sharing in the meetings about how it's what he started seriously dating someone after that. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm dating someone seriously now, it's not just like a hookup, this is someone who I actually care about. And like, and I'm just like sitting there, and I'm like eating it. And
Yeah.
of course it's a social setting, so people are aware. Nobody warned me, because that's the cycle of abuse. Most of the people in AA have been horribly abused in every
Yeah.
single way, and a lot just perpetuate it. And it's the whole, oh, keep the focus on yourself, everyone's trying to heal. But I was told by a number of older women that it happened to them when they first got there, they ended up
Mhm.
relapsing, which is what happened with me. Or I've heard from people that a lot of these young women kill themselves, and it's very common.
Well, you're in
And I'm,
the worst place of your life, struggling every
mhm,
day not to drink because of XYZ reason you're in there in the first place, and now you've got a predator.
mhm,
I always have looked at um life and experiences as you have this thing that you're going to heal from, and then
mhm.
if you don't, you people show up in your life over and over again to give you another opportunity to heal from that original thing. It's like, okay,
Yes,
and here's a guy just like that, and here's a friend just like that, and here's another guy
yes.
just like that, and it's like, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready
Hmm.
yet?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
all of a sudden you wake up one day and you stop attracting those situations because you don't need to heal from them anymore.
Yeah,
It sounds like you're at that moment, maybe when you
yes,
hit record with TikTok and you're like, no
yes,
more,
exactly, exactly. I was like,
no more.
I'm tired of healing. I'm just deciding that I'm healed and I can move on because I
Yeah.
know enough and I've been through enough. And I keep writing in my autobiography. I've already decided that I've already won. I'm just going to decide that
Yeah.
everything that happens happens for my benefit. And I'm just going to know that. And that's what I live by now. So, honestly, the conditions at the last shelter were pretty horrible. And they keep telling you, you must be here for 21 days. And I wasn't. And I was only in there for 9 days. And then I was transferred to a much better facility in a much more desirable part of the city. So even with that, I was like, I'm not going to internalize any of this. I know
Yeah.
this is all temporary because that's what I was lacking the last time I was there. It's when you're in it and you feel fully immersed and you're like, and it feels like it's forever and that you failed.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is temporary. Just like everything that has ever happened, it's temporary.
Do you
So,
do you
mhm,
feel like with your situation, because I'm sure people are watching and saying she didn't know how to manage her money,
mhm,
she blew it, she should have put it towards housing.
mhm.
Um, I was a single mom, so I'm sure everyone said those things about me. So trust me, you're in good company. It's just she just didn't do it right. She could have done it differently. Do you feel that any of that is a truth, or is it just like, no, like literally I was not paid enough to survive?
Well, definitely have never been paid enough to survive. The only time I've been had an income that I can survive off of was during COVID when all of these benefits were enhanced.
Mm.
And I had already been on unemployment and, I got all of these additional benefits. I had consistent health care for the first time. So that was really the
Wow.
first time I had stable housing and food and health care was during the pandemic because, I dropped out of college. So, or was kicked out of college, tried to go
Yeah.
back many times, but even being on a college campus gives me panic attacks and flashbacks because I was this, you know, on all these different, antidepressants as an 18-year-old kid and didn't know how to function. So there's that. Also, my parents are very educated, lawyers, college professors, did not actually teach me anything. They were homeowners, didn't teach me anything about how to own a home. They were landlords, didn't teach me anything about that. They had a high income, didn't teach me anything about investing. They were business owners, both of them, did not teach me anything about how to start a business or to hire employees or anything. I was not taught the importance of anything. It was religion, it was private school. I was taught to be obedient. And when I had questions, a lot of the time it was like, oh, I sent you to private school. How do you not know that? And it's like, I don't know how to start a business. I'm in eighth grade and I'm just
Yeah.
asking you how you got to the place that you are. I wasn't taught anything. My parents paid money to other people to teach me things.
Yeah.
And even my very first therapist when I was 13, thinking about it, it was very irresponsible because my mom's therapist uh, started being my therapist.
Mm.
And they
Hmm.
would talk before and after sessions. And I'm like, I felt so much fear about expressing myself about certain things happening in the home because I know they're going to talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I have to go home with this person. So it was very irresponsible for that therapist to even agree to that sort of situation. But I guess it was about money, you know? And when you live in nice neighborhoods and you go to nice schools and your parents have great jobs and they're, you know, staples of the community, and you know I got good grades and I won a lot of trophies and I stayed out of trouble, so the second I was left on a college campus freshman year I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not
I'm not
prepared.
right. Not ready. Yeah.
And I didn't get into, you know, my parents' alma mater, and my older sibling was there at the time I got rejected, and no one talked to me about it. I was just a failure who couldn't live up to their standards.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And
Do you feel like when you were taken to therapy, did you have that energy of fix her? Like telling the therapist, like, hey, fix her. Like, it's not me. I'm a good parent.
oh,
She's
absolutely. It was
yeah.
I have always been the problem in my family. And now, you know, writing just down these different stories of what's happened in my life, it's like there's no possible way it would not have ended up like this,
Mm,
because I can't diagnose myself as neurodivergent because I haven't been diagnosed with that, but I've been diagnosed with almost everything else, which is
mhm.
a sign of that. I've always been highly empathetic and very sensitive, and being raised around people who are cruel, you know, I really didn't have a chance. And the only and I have this belief that if I had not gotten good grades growing up, if I had not been, you know, award winner in everything growing up, I would have gotten zero attention. I would have
Yeah.
gotten no attention because honestly, when I was home, I was usually in my room or in the basement with a stack of VHS tapes, dreaming one day about being in that TV.
So that was
And
always a dream?
yeah, you know, because that's even the thing. And going back to my struggles with mutism, because acting and public speaking, it's like, okay, I get to talk right now. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm standing here in the spotlight and everyone has to listen to me.
Yeah.
So it was this structure that I could express myself without being interrupted, without being questioned, without like, and there was a separation between performer and audience where I felt safe to express myself. And I now understand that that's where it came from. I just wanted to be heard and seen and validated without being interrupted and critiqued for who I am as a person.
Did you feel
So
like you were like you and then you on stage, like, like how Beyonce talks about being Beyonce and then Sasha Fierce? Like, did you have that kind of energy when you walked on a stage or a set, and now all of a sudden something else, someone else comes out of you?
I've always felt like who I show up to on stage and on camera is exactly who I am. You know, even though I'm
I
a
love that.
naturally quiet, introverted person, I am also naturally a very powerful speaker and performer. And both of those things are true and they come
Yeah.
out at different times. So you know, however, wherever I feel best showing up for myself, whether it's quiet or introverted or more outspoken, it's like, yeah, that's a part of who I am. And I don't have to be one thing or another. And, you know, even with Sasha Fierce, I think that, you know, Beyonce's the same way. Both of those things are her, but I'm sure she gets
Exactly the
asked
same.
that question a lot. So she's like, oh, well, this is the name for it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I for people who are not performers, I don't know if everyone can fully understand that, because you know, even growing up, and I would do speech and debate and they would always announce, you know, the award winners over the PA system, and I was always getting first place and kids would be like, but you don't talk, and I'd be like, well, you know. And there's always just been this confusion, and but you know, everyone loves a winner, so that's how I got people to, you know, talk to me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a winner, so
I'm a winner.
they would start a conversation with me and that's how I would make friends.
I know you're working on your autobiography. You've got a good chunk started on that.
Yes.
And as they say, just so you know, do not go back and read it until it's done. You know that, yes?
Oh, I
Just
hadn't heard that.
yeah, just write. Don't go
Okay.
back and start editing because you'll get all kerfluffled. So just write and
Yeah.
write and write and write. And then when you feel like you're done, then you can go back to the beginning. So there's one tip from Meredyth for you.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
I'll keep that in mind.
outside of the autobiography and hopefully not feeling like you're as much in survival mode being in a safe bed tonight.
Mhm.
Um, do you want to act more? And if so, where?
Absolutely. I'm glad I get to say this. The very first time I saw the first episode of Glee, I was like, I'm going to be on that show. And that was one of my first IMDb credits as a featured extra. The
Get
first
out.
time I saw Orange is the New Black, the very first scene, I was like, I'm going to be on that show. And then I was in seasons 6 and 7. The very first time I saw Abbott Elementary, I said, I'm going to be on that show and I'm going to win an Emmy for it too.
So you're a
So,
manifester, a hard manifester, a solid
yes,
manifester.
it's that and everything that I've been through, I will transmute into me being better and smarter and more talented and more of a
For you.
go-getter.
For you.
Yes. Yeah, for me,
For
because
you.
you know, I love that you said that because my middle name is Joy and a preliminary name for my autobiography is For Joy
Get out.
because I did it for me.
Double entendre. I love a good
Yeah.
double entendre.
Yeah, so that is the preliminary title because for a long time I'm like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? And I'm doing
Yeah.
it for me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that it's a weird feeling when you kind of cut those unhealthy cords.
Hmm.
And it's at the beginning, I don't know if you've experienced this. In the beginning, it's kind of quiet. It's weird to not
Yes.
look around for approval. It feels like there's too much air in the room. I don't know how else to
Yes.
describe it. And you're just like, wait, I'm not looking around for my people mirrors to tell me I'm good enough, to tell me I'm pretty enough, to tell me I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, wait, like you said today, I'm going to be on this podcast. I'm used to like grabbing it and throwing
Yeah.
it like, look at me,
Yeah.
I'm still doing it. And then all of
Yes.
a sudden one day you go, I don't need that. I don't need
Yeah.
that sound anymore in my head. I'm enough. Me being me, waking up worthy, loving
Yes.
myself, that's enough. And I don't need anyone else to know about it. And that's okay. But it feels weird at first.
Yeah, because when I started healing, I realized how much of my mental energy was going towards just negativity about myself and what I had been through and where am I going. And there was this space where just nothing existed because it
Yeah.
was full of negativity. And I think that's what started the TikToks and that's what started the writing because I
Yeah.
had all this extra mental energy. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, let me put it towards something creative. And
And you
yeah.
stop attracting that toxicity too, because
Hmm.
you're in that relationship and it's breeding and breeding negativity and the conversations are negative and then the
Hmm.
reaction and then the subject and you're
Yeah.
back and forth. Your frequency is heavy and negative.
Yes.
And it's like
Yes.
people, I just had this conversation with somebody on a podcast, and I was talking about like people can smell you. People can smell victim. People can
Hmm.
see it from a
Yeah.
mile away. They're like, oh, this person's like they know how to do victim. They know how to do abuse. They know how to take it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you, because you're younger than me, but did you, when growing up with the AA situation and all of the things that you've dealt with, because you had mentioned also that when people at the homeless shelter found out you were on television, you got beat up, you got less food.
Oh, yeah. Ostracized the person who I thought, was my closest friend there,
Yeah,
just stopped talking to me. Um, yeah, I mean, it always seemed like people were looking for a reason to dislike me, but I had a lot of reasons I thought to dislike myself, so I didn't think much of it. I guess I was just
yeah.
waiting for it. And now I keep a lot of that information to myself. I'm no longer just seeking out validation or companionship really from
Yes.
anyone. If I know this is, I was like, this is temporary, so I don't need to get attached to anyone or anything that happens. And
Yeah.
yes, there are a lot of personalities, and there can sometimes be yelling and shouting and mental episodes, and I'm like, I've had mental episodes of my own. I've had a lot of shouting in my own mind. I've experienced my worst day in front of other people. It's like this is nothing new, but I got
Yeah.
past it. So now it's not internal, it's just something out there and it comes to pass.
Yeah,
So
and it's
it's
like I don't
just
yeah, I don't need to do you don't need to do you don't need to fight anymore with
no.
that energy and give it energy and lower your vibration, lower your thought process. It's weird because like I said, it gets quiet and
Mhm.
it's weird because when you stop fighting, it's just like, okay, and now I'm not going to attract that victim. I'm not going to attract that abuse anymore because it's not a part of my reality. I want nothing to do with it. I'm not playing that game anymore.
Yeah, and to just get to a point where I'm like, I'm not interested in being stressed out. I just completely lost interest in it.
Age is a beautiful thing
Yeah, like
when it
even
comes to
walking
that.
down the streets of New York, I used to feel so tense and stressed out. I'm just like, oh, they're just people in their own
Peopling,
world,
peopling.
walking down the street just like I am. And it's so liberating and freeing to be like, I don't have to live the rest of my life stressed out and hating myself. And just knowing that for the first time in my entire life that I don't have to live that way anymore has just made life so much easier because I was, addicted to negativity or the stress hormone, as they say, cortisol. I was
Yeah.
addicted to it because I mean, I was addicted to a lot of things because I was so dysregulated and it took like 5 years to regulate my nervous system after, being homeless and then getting arrested for being attacked and yeah, and having to go to court back and forth so many times. And I was raised by a lawyer who was disappointed in me, a criminal defense attorney I was raised by, who all of a sudden could not find it in themselves to advocate for their own offspring because they defend criminals, but they don't raise them or something.
So let me ask you, what do you have your sights on now? What's your point at the TV or big screen, and what's your next manifestation? What are you loving? What do you want to
Well,
be on?
definitely Abbott Elementary. Um, I it was difficult for me to admit before that I wanted to be a lead and I deserve to be a lead. But yeah, it's yeah, a lead
Yeah.
in feature films, in award-winning feature films.
Does it feel weird saying that out loud? Like, how dare I? Or are you there now?
There's a little bit of it, but it's more of a whisper. It's not the thing that like stops me from speaking in the first place. Because
Yeah.
even the mutism would be like I didn't allow myself to say
Just
certain things out loud. But yeah, I grew up watching Angela Bassett and she's a lead and an award winner. I'm like, yeah, that's like when I was a little girl, that's what I wanted to be. And then when I showed up to the industry and people are like, oh, well, you're this and you're supporting and you're supposed to, be, telling the story, not being the story. And you
you
internalize it. And I was like, no, I don't have to believe that. I don't have to believe anything I don't feel like believing, especially when it has to do with me.
yeah. And I think now is such an amazing time to be a creative and to be a
Hmm.
creator and to be a musician and or an actor because the rules are so diverse now. The
Hmm.
characters are so diverse. The producers are so diverse. So many women led projects
Hmm.
now, where before it wasn't the same situation. I love I love just when you were talking and I could hear the stutter step when you were talking about being the lead, but then
Oh,
you just
really?
pushed right through because
Yeah.
I so understand that energy.
Yeah.
And it's just it's raw and it's real, and I think that that's just what people fall in love with you, and I think that's why you get and you are a winner, like you are period a winner, not you were. you are.
Hmm.
And I think for you, I know for you, watching all that you're going through and this amazing, raw, exposed, just like beautiful moment that you're in, to me, I'm like, oh, it's on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
on. Like now
There's
she's,
no going back to anything, not that I would
yeah,
want to.
there's no going back. There's no fear. There's no shame. There's no hiding. No one can own you. Like there's
Hmm.
something. I one time I was talking to somebody, a relative, and they said, "Does Jim know?" Jim's my husband. Does Jim know about XYZ?
Mm.
And it felt so good to look him in the eye and go, "Yeah, he does." And he still loves me.
Awesome.
And I still love me, right? And I
Yeah.
think that when you are in that space that you have found yourself in right now, which is just like F all of you, and
Yeah.
I love all of you at
Exactly.
the same time. It's just all the things, right? You're just swimming.
Yes.
That's when we're at our best. Period. Because the
Yeah.
gloves are off. You got nothing to lose. You just
Yeah.
have
And
everything to gain.
there's nothing that I desire that hasn't already happened. Like I've gotten phone calls being like, "Hey, can I want you to be a lead in this feature. Hey, like I want you for this commercial. Hey, I saw you in something. I want you to read this part." Like just opportunities showing up. Like there's nothing that I want for myself that hasn't just already happened.
Yeah.
Like so I'm not going to get in my own way and speak negatively or think negatively because
Nope.
in a way I have achieved everything that I've wanted to. It's just on a broader scale this time.
Yeah. I love it so much. I
Hmm.
love that you are sharing. I love that I found you. And your story is changing people's lives. I'm watching in the comments. I'm
Yeah.
watching your story going out, especially right now with this homeless situation in DC, putting a face,
Yeah.
putting a reality, putting a story, a real story with real life person, that was working, that's doing the thing, that's trying so hard, that was very successful, and then still ending up in a homeless situation. Like, this isn't the other. This is all of us. This is a
Yeah.
possibility and reality for all of us. These are not criminals. These are not just addicts. These are mothers. These are vets. These are children
Yeah.
that are on the streets that are being talked about in a very negative way.
Hmm.
And I appreciate uh, you sharing, because we need to understand who we're actually talking about when we
Yes.
other homeless people.
Yeah, that's why I attached a video with a Getty image of me at one of these billionaire cocktail parties, and I was like, I need you guys to understand that this is what homelessness looks like.
Yeah.
There's a Getty image of me smiling at a billionaire's cocktail party, but I had to get back to the shelter by 10 so I wouldn't lose my bed. And that was just for a couple of months. That was normal for me. So,
Yeah.
you know, whether it's, you're looking at homeless people or you're looking at, people in the company of billionaires, it's just not what you think at all. And I will always know that. And I'm glad that I know that. I'm glad that I have these different perspectives
Totally.
because
I
it's,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember I did a paper in college, and it was about the working poor. And people are working 40, 60 hours a week,
Hmm.
two, three jobs with no health care. And, these are people that are not lazy, who are pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and all the things. And they're still not making enough money to get by, to be able to make rent and utilities and food. It's just, it's not what we it's not what we think it is. And um, thankfully for social media, we're learning that. We're learning more people's stories. We're being able to walk and see other people's experiences, which, in my opinion, brings us closer together. I would have never met
Yes.
you had it not been for social media. I would never be sharing your story if it were not to be for social media. And so, thank you so much for coming on and sharing, not only here, but also on TikTok every day, because it's making a huge difference for your viewers.
Yes.
Huge, huge.
Yeah,
It's
and yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Yeah,
yeah,
it'll make me even more comfortable in my writing and in my sharing. Absolutely.
you got this. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Meredyth with a Y. And thank you so much, Mandela. I appreciate you being here. And you have to come back when you get this next big front runner feature, win the
Absolutely.
Emmy, win the Grammy, win all the things that you have in front of you. We need to make a list of all the things that are coming up, and we can just check off the box and come back and share. Everybody, I'll see you guys here next week. Again, like, share, comment, all the things, leave a review, and I'll see you here next week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredythwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredyth with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredyth with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.